Today's video, how Finland found a solution for homelessness.
We are Lisa and Greg, an American couple living abroad in Spain. If you're curious about the crazy, funny, and surprising differences between the US and Europe, you came to the right place. We're getting really close to 10,000 subscribers, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And besides, you can be a part of whatever is happening here. Okay, so this is Explained Dom. Lisa will include a link in the description so you can go and show Mr. Dom some love, or Mrs. I don't know. And let's see, 230. Let's give him a 240,000.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? All right. And you have any thoughts on this?
I'm curious. I know there's a huge homelessness problem in the United States, depending on the state. But it's everywhere. But some states are worse than others.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what they do.
Okay. Well, we'll see. This is going to be interesting, I think.
Homelessness is often considered a problem that doesn't have a solution. But there is one country that may have found it anyway. Finland has developed a unique strategy for getting homeless people off the streets and back into the society. And it aims to completely eradicate homelessness by 2027. And
2027, that's like, what? That's soon. Completely eradicated. That means that we'll have no homelessness in the next 2 years, less than 2 years.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is.
Although Japan still has technically the lowest homelessness rate, the Japanese success is actually quite questionable. While Finland has been praised again and again.
Oh, I've heard this about Japan. He does have a video if you guys wanted to watch specifically about Japan. We're not going to do it. It's not Europe. But I've heard that about Japan. They kind of just they make it look like it's solved. But in reality, there's YouTubers over there that are actually filming what's really happening. So I don't know. That might be a whole nother story.
Is actually quite questionable. While Finland has been praised again and again for its results. So how did Finland manage to do it? And why aren't we just doing the same thing everywhere else? This is how Finland solved homelessness. But first, a quick message. If you like what I do, explaining how the world works by going beyond the headlines and challenging what we think we know about it, do consider becoming a supporter on my Patreon. For just $1.50, you will help me to make more and better videos, and you'll get bonus content, early access, and you'll get to vote on topics I should cover next. Just go to patreon.com/explainedwithdom to check it out. And now back to the video.
And by the way, his page is awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah, we found some really good, some gold mines in there to talk about.
Yeah, so we definitely recommend going to check him out.
Finland is famously the only country in the European Union where numbers of homeless people are actually significantly decreasing, and have been for several decades. And it's not like other European countries are not trying. They all have shelters, organizations giving out aid, and dedicated national strategies. But most of them, including the UK, Germany, or France, still see their numbers going up rather than going down. So what is Finland doing differently? Well, as they say, if you want average results, do the same thing as everyone else. And if you want unique results, you have to use unique methods as well. And so the Finns have turned the traditional approach to homelessness on its head and committed to a radical strategy that became known as housing first. Basically, there is usually a reason why someone ends up homeless, whether it's because of mental illness, drug addiction, because they lost their job, or something else. But the idea behind how most countries approach homelessness is that the person living on the street should start by sorting out those problems first while living in a shelter, and only after that they can get access to permanent housing. This has been called the
This is going to be super interesting because
it is.
Oh man, it sounds so simple.
But there are so many dynamics to each individual person.
Yeah.
But I guess you can possibly lump everybody into certain categories and then start there.
I mean, I guess thinking. So. My point of reference is in America. And in America, everything's political. So this wouldn't work because you'll have people that think that they should have been able to help themselves and pull themselves up by the bootstraps and go out there and,
I think in individual states, they could probably adopt what Finland's
maybe
is going to do.
Maybe.
But
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We don't know what they're gonna do. But
I know. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's find out.
Yeah.
And only after that, they can get access to permanent housing. This has been called the staircase approach because the homeless person is basically expected to gradually move up through different levels. They're expected to stop taking drugs, undergo mental health treatments, and if they make progress, they can move on, with the permanent housing as a final reward. But the problem is that this approach is not actually very effective. Quitting drugs or managing serious mental health issues is already difficult when you have a home, and it's basically impossible when you're homeless. In other words, we expect people living on the street to do what many regular people are not able to, and so it's not surprising that most homeless people get stuck on one level of the staircase, as they fail to complete the tasks to move on, and eventually they relapse, get evicted, and go back to the street. So Finland, seeing that the traditional approach was not very effective, decided to turn this on its head and try out something very different. Rather than thinking of housing as a reward for successfully integrating into the society, Finland based its approach on the idea that with a permanent home from the beginning, solving your own problems becomes much easier. And
what? It felt like it was like, this is like a buildup. This guy's channel is really good. It's like a buildup of like, okay, how? And so you start from the top.
Yeah.
And then see if they can heal from there.
Well, you give them, you start from the top. Give them some stability. So some
dignity from the get-go.
That's true. It's like you have something that's yours, something you don't want to lose. So you'll do all of the things that they ask you to do. Man, that's really good.
A place of your own to detox and clean up. And
Right.
Interesting.
Permanent home from the beginning, solving your own problems becomes much easier. And so the state started providing permanent housing in the form of small individual apartments, not as the final reward, but at the very beginning.
I just know,
housing first.
I think that's great. I just know, I can hear it now. This is in America. And I mean, this channel is about comparing the U.S. to America, to Europe. So that's why I'm saying this. But I can hear it now. If you gave somebody who was homeless a house, there would be people out there. I worked my whole life and nobody gave me anything. Why do they get a house? I guess I should go out and be homeless and so I can get a free house.
Right. That's like exactly what would be said. So sad.
Yeah.
But that's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's 100% true.
Small individual apartments, not as the final reward, but at the very beginning, and to basically any homeless person who asks for it, and without strict conditions. People living in the housing provided by the state are not required to give up drugs or go to a treatment, and they're not evicted if they relapse. They are, however, required to pay a small rent, which means they need to have an income. And they have a very strong support system, which they need to take part in. In most cases, the housing is provided in centers with around 100 homeless people, living in small individual apartments that are looked after by a team of around 20 on-site social workers. And they provide support with everything from bureaucracy, job hunting, and getting access to addiction or mental health treatments, and they also keep things from going off the rails. But
see, this is not foreign to Europe. This is foreign to the United States.
Well,
we're not used to giving and free stuff. We're not to socialism. We're not used to any of that.
Social programs. There's a huge movement right now in America to get rid of basically just about every social program that they're
trying to cut Medicaid at this moment. And
a bunch of other things. If they had their way, it would be nothing, and every country would be run by corporations.
But I can see how the Finland people are not like, oh no, you can't do this, because they're used to giving to their society.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. There might be some Finnish, hopefully I say that right, people out there who disagree with this.
I wonder. Yeah.
So, they might have a different perspective.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So
They provide support with everything from bureaucracy, job hunting, and getting access to addiction or mental health treatments, and they also keep things from going off the rails. But how it works is one thing, and if it works is another one. So, does it? Well, in the mid-1980s, there were around 20,000 homeless people in Finland, and according to national estimates, in 2021, this figure has decreased to just under 4,000. And so it looks like a success, but is it really? The critics of the Finnish system say that this just hides the problem, and the numbers are artificially decreased by putting everyone in government-paid housing, rather than actually reintegrating them into the society. And that is a legitimate criticism. The results are only possible because of the continuous support paid for by the state. The numbers of those who transition from government housing to living completely independently are quite small, and if you would remove the government support, the homelessness numbers would immediately spike once again. But on the other hand, that's the whole point of the policy. You don't need homeless people to turn into model citizens who are addiction-free and who are completely independent. In the Finnish model, it's already considered a success when you get them off the street and into a controlled, safe environment, when they're able to pay a small rent every month, and when they're slowly, one step at a time, reintegrating back into the society. Now,
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's true. It does accomplish what it set out to do, which is to reduce homelessness. So it did do that. It's a government program that's paid for, obviously, by the government. And so in where we come from, that would be a problem because it's government assistance. So, and it could be a problem here, but I guess it does accomplish it. It
accomplishes a lot for that one individual person.
Right.
And so you may not feel like the impact, you see the impact, and you may not know the impact to that one particular person, but each individual person is feeling better, and they may not be able to integrate back into society, but at least in moments of their lives, they have some dignity and they feel a little bit better than being on the street. So,
but it kind of sounds like that the goal of this program is not necessarily to get them back into society. No, it's to reduce homelessness.
Yeah.
And it accomplished that.
Right.
Yeah.
When they're slowly, one step at a time, reintegrating back into the society. Now, naturally, this costs a lot of money. The Finnish government spends a lot of money on buying apartments and turning them into homeless housing, subsidizing developers who build this housing, heavily subsidizing the rent, and employing a lot of social workers that work with the homeless people. And that's not cheap. But even so, according to Finnish statistics, it actually financially pays off. A study of financial costs shows that Finland actually saves 15,000 euros a year on every homeless person it houses. Even though it spends money on housing and social workers, it's still a lot cheaper than to bear the cost of emergency care, policing, justice system, and all the costs that come with having homeless people living on the street. And so in the end, it's a model that kind of works for everyone. It's definitely better for the homeless people who don't have to live on the street or in often dangerous temporary shelters. It's better for the regular people who don't have to deal with criminality, drug use, and other issues that come with people living on the street.
Tourism.
And it's
and it helps with cleanliness. Because you don't have people, I mean, when you live on the street, you don't have a place you can necessarily get rid of your trash or old clothes.
Yeah, so that boosts tourism, possibly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Criminality, drug use, and other issues that come with people living on the street. And it's actually better even for the government that ends up saving money. But if it works in Finland, why aren't we doing it everywhere? And would it be successful? Well, that's a tricky question. And there are both practical and ideological reasons why Finland is still unique in this approach. First, even if you wanted to, it's not actually that easy to just take what Finland is doing and apply it somewhere else. For example, the basic condition to give away housing is that you need to have enough of it. And since most countries are going through a housing crisis, that's not that easy. One of the reasons why Finland is able to do it is because cities in Finland tend to own most of the land. And so they're able to use that to build a lot of social housing units. But that's not common. And so even though this policy is successful in Finland, it can fail in other places. California, for example, has been trying the housing first policy as well for the past 10 years, but it hasn't really seen the same results. And that's because it lacks everything that is required for this policy to be successful. Unlike Finland, California has incredibly strict development rules and really expensive real estate, which means that building social housing in large quantities is kind of impossible. And even then, housing is just a part of it. In order to replicate how it works in Finland, you also need a really strong social security system.
And that city they were showing, I don't know if he said California, but that's San Francisco, where homelessness has gotten out of hand,
out of control
in San Francisco. And it's dangerous, and it's like
pretty gross.
nasty. It is not good. And we were there probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. So visiting, we never lived there.
Yeah.
And it's gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
So
they were pooping on the street. And then they have sweepers, street sweepers that go through, and it's because they have to. Yeah. Because they're pooping on the street. And
it's not good over there. So
it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
System, a lot of social workers, and access to healthcare, mental health institutions, and addiction treatment. But California doesn't really have any of that. But even more than for practical reasons, this policy is often rejected on ideological grounds. There is a deep-rooted idea that homeless people should deserve housing, rather than just get it, and that doing so creates a bad precedent. Even though in this case, that's not really what the data and the evidence are telling us.
That is so true. I mean,
that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, a perfect example is there were people in the last administration that were getting, government student loans paid, and there were people that had a major problem with that, even though oftentimes more than half of what you owe to the government is interest. So it's not even what you paid to go to school.
Yeah.
But but I don't know. I was just bringing it up because it's an example of when somebody gets something, there are other people out there that say, well, it's not fair. Like I should get it too.
Yeah.
So even if I don't need it, I should get it.
The mentality's all messed up.
Yeah. All messed up.
Even though in this case, that's not really what the data and the evidence are telling us. So although Finland has some unique advantages, this model can be applied elsewhere. But in order to be successful, it requires a lot of invested resources, ability to commit for decades rather than for years, and in the end, it needs to be just a part of a wider, well-functioning system of social safety nets that help people from getting off the ground. And so it looks like Finland will probably keep its unique position for a bit longer.
Aw.
Well, I mean,
it's not duplicatable.
Yeah.
It's just not.
It's not duplicatable.
Even if they want to do it, they just
I wonder if it's like on a smaller scale or something. I don't know. Homelessness is tough.
It is.
I mean, we've had situations where we're pretty much homeless, we slept in tents and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
when I was younger, same thing. A lot of times you have family that you go to. So that's just what we had to do when we were younger.
Yeah. And oftentimes in America, it's kind of, you have a lot of bills, like my $20-something thousand medical bill that I randomly got, even though I was paying $1,000 a month for health insurance. All of these things happen that add up over time, and you, by no fault of your own,
sneaks up on you.
Yeah, you end up in a homeless situation. So I don't know, man. That was good. It was like a bittersweet because it was good that Finland has a solution, but then it's kind of unfortunate that it makes total sense. It's not something that can be done everywhere. So, all right, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If in your country or city, if there's anything that people are doing to combat homelessness, feel free to put those in the comments.
I'd have to find out what Spain is doing because we don't see it as much here as we did in the United States. So it may still be a problem, but to Spaniards, but we don't see it as big of a problem in comparison to what we're used to.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I don't know.
That's interesting. I don't know.
Oh, see, Oregon.
Oh, what? Oh, the first one? Okay. I am in Oregon, USA. I was homeless and my cousin took me in and gave me a spot to park my old camper. Then he helped me find a better rig. Then his brother gave me a permanent spot to park and minimal electricity. I was able to get the rest I needed and a safe place from which to jump back into society. I'm now a school bus driver, which I love. I'm getting stronger and healing from long-term disabilities. I love my life now. Oh.
That's nice because Oregon has a huge homeless problem.
Yeah.
Portland specifically, because that's where we lived. We lived near there.
Yeah, like 5 minutes from there.
It was horribly bad.
Yeah. I was homeless 50 years ago. A kind family gave me a room after finding a job as savings, went to university, and later I got an engineering degree. Wow. Now 70 years old and retired, appreciate the kindness and warm-heartedness of some people.
Nice.
All right, last one here. I'm an educator and have also done research on best practices around the world. And Finland has also used amazing ingenuity to be a leader in student access and literacy.
Student success and literacy.
Thank you. Maybe I'll move to Finland someday. Well, we will definitely visit. We're gonna be doing like a straight up European tour because we got like so many places to go and visit. But I think it's awesome, and we will definitely be documenting that. So, which I think is gonna be great.
Yeah, cool.
We're gonna make our boys be whatever video. Yeah, there you go. Yes, that thing. They're gonna, the producers, the directors, there you go. Whatever. All right. Okay, this was a good video.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. All right. So as always, we appreciate you stopping by, and we will see you on the next video. Peace.
Bye.